Samantha Boyd is an Epic agent, a team lead and broker associate with ANEW Real Estate in Florida, joining us from Central Florida, I believe. Samantha, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeff. I'm really excited to be here.
Great to have you. I'm excited that you're here as well. We talked a little bit before I hit record. You have some podcasting experience, but you're usually in my chair.
Yeah.
You're not you're not the guest. How does it feel to be a guest on the podcast for the first time?
This is a very different experience. The podcast that I hosted very briefly with two of my best friends was a completely different vibe. It was more like after hours. Realtors are taking their ties off.
hmm
So this will be fun, and I'm excited to get the first one done today.
Well, you picked a good one. I hope this is I like to think this is a really easy podcast to sit down and record. And with that podcast that you produced with your friends, so there's an after hours podcast. Was there some wine involved?
You always had to have a drink in your hand. Yeah, it was really fun,
Uh,
but
I love
short-lived.
it. I love it. I need to produce one of those too. That's next
That
on
would
the
be fun.
list.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Yep.
Samantha, where in Florida are you based?
So I live in Tampa Bay. If you're familiar with the area, I live in North Hyde Park. My team spans all of Central and West Florida. So we've got a pretty large geographic area that we're covering right now, and we're looking to expand that in 2026. So yeah, Central, West Florida.
That's an amazing market, a pretty vast area as well. Continues to grow, right? Continues to develop. I haven't been there in a long time, but I remember it's just folks just continue to move to Florida.
Yeah, even after pandemic ended, we're still getting a ton of migration to the state of Florida. I myself moved here with my husband in late 2019. And so just the development of Tampa and Orlando that I've seen in the last, I guess I can say 7 years now, that's pretty crazy, has been incredible. And Tampa keeps making headlines. We got named like the highest foreclosure rate in the country, even though it was like I don't know, 0.1% higher than the next highest place. We keep getting awards for the development that's going on here, our river walk. Like there's really cool things happening. And I don't know that Tampa has ever really been looked at in this light before maybe the last 10 years. I think it's always kind of been like this weird armpit of Florida that nobody really wanted to move to. And so it's been interesting to see it get developed into, I don't want to say a mini Miami because we don't have that vibe here, but a lot of the same kind of industry as Miami. Nightlife is starting to pop up. Lifestyle is available here. And I think that's really interesting.
I had a guest on the podcast from Tampa as well, Courtney Poe, a while
Yeah.
back, and she said, "Don't Miami my Tampa."
Yeah. No, it's a negative buzzword in this area. Nobody wants to be Miami.
But
But we do
the
want all of the benefits of Miami, right? Like we
mhm.
want that huge boom to the economy here, and it is slowly starting to build that way, which is really cool.
I've done quite a bit of research about the Tampa Bay market, not so much the statistics and data, but just the development. You brought up Riverwalk, amazing um, sort of rejuvenation that happened there. South Tampa, of course, continues to be just the luxury epicenter, I think, of the region. Tampa Bay has, and there's so many other areas as well, and I can't think of the names offhand, but a lot of other areas in and around downtown Tampa that were going through this amazing renaissance and just redevelopment and reimagination. Looks like a lot of exciting things happen in Tampa in the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, and the next 5 years, I think we're going to be blown away by what happens.
hmm
They're making significant efforts to connect downtown to midtown through bike paths and walking paths. They just released that there will be an official ferry taking you from South Tampa to St. Pete, which has been done before, but only seasonally, and now it's going to be nonstop. They've got government funding. There's a lot of really cool things that'll be happening here. Orlando's booming too, and once we get that train, that speed train that takes you from Tampa to Orlando, just like Orlando goes to Miami right now, I think it's going to be night and day.
So I feel completely ignorant at the moment. Does Orlando is there a bullet chain now that goes from Orlando to Miami? That's amazing. Yeah, that's cool. All right. So that's probably been there for quite a while. I remember decades ago, they were talking about the high-speed rail from Tampa to Orlando. That'll be really cool. Did you mention there's a ferry now that goes from downtown St. Pete to downtown Tampa?
It's launching soon. And
Okay.
like I said, we've had one in the past, but it was always seasonal. Maybe didn't have the best ownership. I don't want to speak too much on that, but now it will be backed by the actual city, backed by the state, and it will be year round. That's going to be a really big deal for increasing traffic over to St. Pete without impacting traffic and roadways, which are already pretty crowded and congested. And I think it's going to really impact the boom that's going to happen in St. Pete in the next few years.
St. Pete's another area that has come on my radar, especially downtown St. Pete and the surrounding neighborhoods. Just looks like a phenomenal, some gorgeous redevelopment and revitalization going on in and around St. Petersburg as well.
Yeah, you're talking about an area that used to be like the retirement capital of the US. So your grandma and grandpas always went to Florida to retire. They were probably habitating in St. Pete. And now it's become this really young, quirky, artsy, just unique town. It's very walkable downtown St. Pete is. The beach isn't far away. So I think once that gets built up just a little bit more, it might have even like Austin, Nashville vibes without the country music, of course.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. With its own unique take on it. Right. Yeah. Samantha, what inspired, how long have you been in the business and what inspired your career in real estate?
In October, I just celebrated 10 years, which is crazy to think about. It has felt both like 2 minutes and a decade, or I guess it was a decade, a century. But that's time in real estate, right? So 10 years in, and I've been doing a lot of reflection this time of year. I think that that's pretty normal for everyone. You know, what really got me started in real estate? I always like to say that I fell in. I graduated from the University of Virginia with a degree in religious studies. And so, as you and anyone else can imagine, I graduated and I just had job offers coming out the wazoo. Not
Right.
really.
Yep.
I went to go work for a nonprofit for like 3 months. I was literally standing on the streets of DC, asking people to donate to support a child in a third world country. It was January. I was wearing 3 shirts, 3 pairs of pants. I was freezing. Got out of that. Started working for an energy audit company. I was the last person that they hired, and I was the last person there when they shut their doors. The owner of that company introduced me to his girlfriend, who was a realtor working in property management. I started working for the property management company, kind of took that over, got my real estate license. And I'll never forget, you know, as soon as you get your real estate license, I think one of the most common things to do is go start looking at homes for yourself, right? Because now you have this access pass that you didn't have before. You don't have to bug somebody else to go get it done. And so I was taking my husband around and we were touring just like little homes for us. And we went and toured one of the worst properties I think I've ever seen. It was in our budget. It was in the area that we wanted to be in. I mean, drywall falling down from the ceiling, insulation, just absolutely terrible area once we got there. And the listing agent called me right after my showing ended. How did it go? They were looking for feedback. And I said, oh, it wasn't the property for us. So sorry. Click. Just like that quick and concise. That man called me back 3 more times. I finally answered on the third ring. And I said, what can I do for you, sir? We don't want your listing. And he said, I want you. I want you to come interview for me. I think that you have a way of talking to people. You're very sure about what you want. You're very concise and quick-witted. And I want you to interview to be a buyer's agent on my team. And the reason why I bring that up is because I don't know that I'd be where I am today if I hadn't taken that third phone call and if I hadn't been so quick to dismiss him about his listing. And it really got me thinking about like all these little people along the way in my path that have kind of nudged me in the right direction that I didn't know at the time. But if they weren't there and if they weren't saying those things, I wouldn't be where I am today. So ultimately, you know, I ended up in real estate by accident, but I was searching for a sense of stability that I didn't have in my life growing up and that I always wanted to provide to the people around me in my life because I know that they didn't have it either. I am the oldest sibling with 3 younger ones below me, and they've always needed a little extra support because we didn't have it at home. You know, I'll never forget the days where my mom just wouldn't get out of bed, and I had to kind of get everyone off to school. And when we got home, I had to make everyone dinner. And that has impacted the way that I lead my life. It's impacted the way that I lead in all of my relationships. I always want to be the person that can give more. Maybe because I've always had to be, but it really is a sense of pride for me that I am able to be the resilient one and the one that stands up. And so through real estate, whether it was selling when I first started, I've been able to do that for buyers and sellers, investors. And now I've transitioned to this spot where I'm doing it for agents. And that's really, really cool because whenever you impact an agent's life, you're impacting thousands of lives because you're touching all of their buyers and sellers through them too. So that's kind of what got me here, why I'm still here, what I get out of real estate every day, and what gets me out of bed in the morning.
The road to real estate or the road to a real estate career tends to be a
Winding.
winding path
Yeah.
for sure. And very few, very few arrive at that as a career choice early on. Go Cavaliers, by the way, or should
Thank
I
you.
say Wahoos?
Wahoo. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a big, uh, I've always had I've always been enamored by the University of Virginia. I went to high school right outside of Charlottesville, a boarding school. My parents lived in home was Northern Virginia, and visited UVA quite a lot while I was in boarding school and in prep school, and just loved the town, loved the history. Thomas Jefferson. I was reading Thomas Jefferson biographies at 17, like very boring stuff to most people, right? But anyway, congratulations on that. That was my A school, and I did not get in.
Oh,
Uh, well done to you.
it was a beautiful place to grow up, I'm sure. It was beautiful to go
Uh,
to college there. Yeah.
yeah. It's a beautiful place to grow up. I still have a soft spot for Virginia, and love visiting. And I'm not far. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina now, and still get to Virginia occasionally. But um, all right, so I'll try not to digress too much more. 10 years has gone by in the blink of an eye, right? No doubt about it. I love, if I were, so I'm the youngest of three. If I were going to guess, if you had asked me, you have three siblings. If you had asked me where you fall in that rotation, my guess would have been you were the oldest of the four, the
No.
eldest, I should say, just because of just the way you carry yourself, the way you communicate. You seem, your siblings are very lucky, I feel like, to have you.
Thank you.
You seem to be really mission driven, really thoughtful in your career path. And when I set up this interview with you, I had asked if we could talk about areas of expertise, which I do with every agent that I have on the podcast, because I want to talk about your business and I want to help you share with our listeners and the community who you enjoy serving the most, who you're best suited for serving. But I know that you also have a servant's heart when it comes to helping agents and impacting the careers and the success of your fellow real estate agents, especially, of course, those on your team. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been in a team lead position for the last 5 years or so. Just recently, this past July, I started my own team. So now I'm a founder and making all my own rules, which has been a really, really cool experience. But what I have found is that if you give agents the right support, if you give them the right tools and resources and technology, they can make anything they want out of their real estate career. And my favorite part about partnering with LPT back in July is this idea of the individual definition of success. So, on teams in the past or situations in the past, it has been convert every lead you possibly can, get every agent to be the highest producer they can possibly be. Versus here and under ANEW Collective, what we're really focused on is what is that agent's individual definition of success? What are the goals that they've set for themselves that support not only their finances, but the kind of life that they want to have at home? Not every agent wants to go out and sell 60 homes a year. We have a place for the agent that does, but we also have a spot for the agent that maybe is okay with just selling 10 and being at home to homeschool her kids or their kids. And I think that has really become my area of expertise, not only because I'm such a lead conversion savant, but a technology savant, and now we've forayed into how do we get these leads to really become your sphere and become a referral generator for that agent so their pipeline is always robust and they're not always depending on these leads. So that is really what I'm focusing on now is yes, we're a leads model. Let's turn that into sphere. Let's build out a pipeline and a business that's going to last an agent a lifetime, a career, instead of a very, very short time. So they're constantly on this hamster wheel.
You find mentorship part of your role as well. That must be very rewarding, I would
Oh my
say.
gosh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I take on agents that come from other teams all the time, and I'm not going to name any names, but the overwhelming feedback that I get is, oh my gosh, you answer your phone. Oh my gosh, you're not annoyed that I have a million questions. And wow, I really genuinely feel supported. And that's not fluff. That's nobody's blowing smoke. And we think that as a realtor, we've probably all been in a similar spot whenever we first started, where we got our license and we're so excited to get going. But we didn't learn anything about actually selling real estate when we went through that licensing course and when we took that test. And so if you don't partner with the right broker, if you don't partner with the right support system in your brokerage, you're not going to get any of those questions answered. I feel immensely bad for the first buyer and seller to those agents that didn't have any support whenever they started their career, because God only knows what went wrong in those transactions. And so I think that it's really important that you find somebody that is going to answer the phone, give you the time, and have patience, because every agent learns differently. I think that's why a lot of us fall into real estate. We're all a little bit different. We're a little kooky. But they also need maybe repetition in some areas that other agents don't. So finding a leader that's going to speak to you where you are and how you need to be spoken to is critical to your success.
Also, that you mentioned that you really hone in and focus on success as defined by each individual. I think that's really important to underscore, because it's so easy to compare ourselves. Social media has made it easier than ever, unfortunately, to fall into that trap of comparison, and and it can lead to a lot of self-doubt and a lot of insecurity. I think I have, for example, it's the beginning of 2026, and at the end of each year, we see the same posts, throughout the industry, and it's X number of $1 million closed in 2025, or name the year. And I know agents personally who were jumping for joy because they had closed $4.5 million, and that was they're early in their career. They had closed $4.5 million, and they were that was success. That was their goal, and they met their goal, and they were individually successful. And I know personally other agents, one in particular who, if you'd asked him February of last year, which I didn't ask, but he offered up the information anyway, that he was tracking 70 million for 2025. He ended up under 30. So I'm sure that there's somebody that is utterly disappointed, but yet wildly successful, right? I mean, to close as an individual producer 30 million in a year is tremendous success in my book, but to him, obviously, a big disappointment. So I think it's really important that we all kind of focus on what, our individual idea of success is. And I love that you talk and really focus on that as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's crucial, and I agree with you. There's so many distractions out there right now. If it's not another agent telling you that they've cracked the code, and if you follow their system and buy their coaching guide, it's some new technology telling you that if you're not using this, then you're wasting all of your time and effort. And oh, by the way, everyone can be a top producer. It just depends on what category you're comparing yourself to.
Sure.
I think really focusing on like what your personal values are, that's what you should measure success by. And that takes a little bit of retraining for some agents. Like I think it's really easy to watch, what was it? Selling Sunset or $1 million listing and being like, that's what I want. But do you actually want that? Or do you want to be at home on the weekends occasionally and go on vacation once or twice a year and not stress out about it? So figuring out what your values are, even as adults, I think it's a more complicated question than we give maybe credit to. And I don't think that a lot of adults get asked that or get asked to think about those things and put it pen to paper. And it's really important that they do in order to know what they should be measuring by.
Focusing on individual success and determining for each of us to determine what our own vision of our own personal success is probably a topic for another podcast episode, but or deserves its own podcast series probably. But I totally agree. I love that you focus on that. I think I think just keeping to our individual idea of success is really important, and for both our mental health and our heart for sure. Let's talk. You mentioned there's the lead model and there's the referral or sphere model, and you've kind of blended the two. And I don't want to get too much into tactics. I don't want you to share trade secrets or anything like that, but just overall, strategically, what are some of the ways that you're able to effectively merge those two models?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think, we chatted about this a little bit. Leads are really polarizing in the real estate industry. You're either like all in on leads or you absolutely hate them. You've never bought a lead in your life. And just ask any realtor, they'll tell you what their stance is pretty quick. I think that the big miss for non-leads agents is understanding that a lot of realtors get started without a sphere. Like there are so many military spouses, for example, that just relocate to an area, get their real estate license, and they don't know anyone on their street. They've got to go out and build it. Agents can successfully build their own sphere without leads in new areas, 100%. A lot of agents do that. But the fastest path to success, in my opinion, would be leads. And if you can take leads, convert them, obviously get some closings out of them, and then turn that closed business into referral generation so that you're building your own sphere along the way, you're not only fast tracking your first success, but you're prolonging continued success by doing that. And I think where leads teams fall flat is they are so focused on that bottom line because commission compression is happening, right? We've got referral fees at outside lead sources, or we're paying for each individual lead. And it's really about how can I convert as many leads as possible? Don't spend so much time over here. You kind of get lost in the sauce. I've been on a team like that where that's the only focus. And when you take a step back in that model and you look at all of that repeat business that we missed out on because we didn't do the proper follow-up, all of the referrals from friends and family that we never got because we didn't do the continued follow-up, it's pretty deafening. Like it's horrifying to see what you miss out on when you're only focused on leads. So at ANEW, it's really been my mission to blend the two together. And I think through that, what we're going to find, and what I know we're going to find, is that agents are happier. And we can teach an agent to work with people that already like, know, and trust them instead of having to call a random Zillow lead that came in 2 months ago. They're going to be much happier long term. And so if we can use the leads to kind of get them started and stoke this fire that burns and burns and keeps their entire home warm for years to come, they're going to stay for a very long time.
Talk about the long game all the time on this podcast. And I think that it's not just the real estate industry. It's any career, anything of, especially in the industry where where it involves high value and high trust, and the relationship becomes more and more important. We're not going to see that ROI in the first couple of years, right? You're just kind of building the runway in the first couple of years. Gary Keller said in his seminal book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, he spoke of the 3 L's: leads, listings, and leverage. We spoke a little bit before I hit record, and I noticed on your Instagram bio, you highlight leads, leverage, and growth, and that kind of encapsulates that philosophy that you just kind of outlined, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I might need to change my wording though. I didn't realize there might be a trademark, so I got to get with Gary. I got to make sure it's okay. My bad.
I don't know if it's trademarked,
Okay, good.
but yeah, I think you're fine.
No, that's 100% what it is, right? Take the leads, leverage them into growing your business, your career, your life into exactly what you want it to be. It's as simple as that. It's not as easy as that, but it is as simple.
What are some of the ways? All right, I am going to get a little tactical, but we can still kind of be broad and vague about it. So again, I don't want you to educate your competition there locally. But what are some ways that you recommend that you share with these agents as they've converted leads, they've obtained leads, they've converted to listings or purchasers, and now they're in their database, their sphere. And what are some of the methods with which you recommend nurturing that sphere and developing those relationships?
So I think one of my favorite things about real estate is that you don't always have to reinvent the wheel. And so the exact same idea that got us from how do we marry leads with a sphere business model is how we're going to marry our outreach approach. So with leads, typically most teams are all tech-based. So they're not doing any kind of print marketing, they're not doing any kind of pop buys, any handwritten cards, anything like that. God knows that they're not door knocking. And then on the sphere side, a lot of those agents that were just doing sphere business don't even have a CRM, let alone action plans, AI automations going. Blending those two together has been so amazing for our business already, and we've only been, in action for 6 months now. And so as we continue to do that, and it multiplies, because that is something that's going to exponentially grow as we have more closed business, we have more sphere that we can start treating this way. Yeah, that's kind of the plan and what we've been seeing so far. It's just marrying these two worlds. LPT empowers us a little bit on the print marketing side, just innately, because they do have those power packs and they have that prospecting. And so we've really been able to lean into that to kind of get us started, and then dreaming up mail campaigns and marketing campaigns that are physical, whether it's in person or in the mailbox, has been really helpful too.
I had a conversation yesterday with Ruben Martinez in Houston, Texas, and we talked a lot about automating that follow-up and nurturing process, and how important that, and I mentioned automation doesn't necessarily have to mean impersonal, but how important it is that you're not relying on yourself to manually remember and manually reach out to your sphere on a regular basis. It's so important to schedule and automate so many parts of this process. So it sounds like you've leaned a lot on technology and a little bit on AI as well to help get this done.
Yeah, I'm a self-proclaimed nerd, so it's okay if you call me that. And
Same here.
like-minded, great. I'm the kind of person that if it's not in my calendar, it's not going to happen. And so if I don't have a plan or a process in place, it's not going to happen in terms of follow-up. And agents are the exact same way. I think agents that are successful without CRMs, without any kind of automations, or if they are just flying by the seat of their pants manually, I think a lot of their business happens by accident. Don't come for me. I think that that's innately what's going on, is a lot of it's happening by circumstance, and that's not something that you can plan on long term. So perhaps if you're only doing real estate, part-time, and all the money that you make is just fun money, it's not really supporting your survival, great. But if you are doing this as a career, if this is, you're the breadwinner in your home, or you want to be the breadwinner in your home, you can't do things manually. You can't do things by accident. Everything has to be intentional, whether it's following up with leads, following with sphere, or combining the two.
There's a book written a while back, and I forget the title, and I probably shouldn't even bring it up because I don't remember so much of it. But the title, or I'm sorry, I don't remember the author. The title was Built to Sell. And basically, it's like, how do you build a business? And I firmly believe that real estate professionals are entrepreneurial at heart, and we are, it's despite the fact that we do affiliate with a brokerage and we have to play by our affiliations rules and so forth, and of course the commission as well. But we're still responsible at the end of the day for our own business, our own income.
Yep.
Right. Generating business and repeat and referral and new leads. And I feel like it's so important to kind of have that frame of mind when growing your business, because at the end of the day, if you build something to sell, it has to be something that's very repeatable and automated, and that basically you can transfer. Now, you might not be building your business. You may never have plans to sell, no matter what industry you're in, what business you start. But by building it to sell, those automations and those processes and systems develop naturally to help you, and that's how you scale a business. Not that I'm a business coach, but that's how I think that it's really important for realtors to have a business entrepreneurial, systemic, process-driven mindset to be successful.
Yeah, and I think a lot of agents get into the industry completely lacking that piece. Like that's just not who they are. They're not very structured. They got into it because they didn't want a 9 to 5, they didn't want a boss, and all of those things are true. But at the end of the day, how are you going to become your own boss? And if you're not finding success, you can't figure out what your own system is. There's obviously a ton of things that you can lean into, but the fastest way to plug into something is to join a team that aligns with your core values that's already got those systems built out.
Yeah, I agree 100% there. And I often joke, just like small business ownership or entrepreneurship, becoming a real estate agent does give you the freedom. It gives you the freedom to work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
That's
So
true.
I always love it when, I know that I think I began my entrepreneurial journey 20 years ago, and I think that one of my motivations was to be able to control my own schedule, which was really naive. I'm glad I didn't know then what I know now because I wouldn't have started.
Yeah.
But I'm super happy that I did. But yeah, that's always worth noting, I think, and reminding, especially for folks who are just starting out. Let's talk a little bit about, we're going on 30 minutes. I only asked you for a half hour. I really appreciate your time. And this has been such an enjoyable conversation. Before I close, though, I want to ask you a little bit about plans for 2026.
I've got some big, hairy, audacious goals for
I
2026,
love
and
it.
I am so excited. So, before I dig into my goals, I'm just going to real quick take a step back. July 4th is my claimed birthday for ANEW Collective. It might be a day or two before, but I like that date the best. We started with 6 agents, and so we wrapped up 2025 with just under 50. By the end of Q1, we should have about 100 agents under us. We are on track to do easily 200 million this year in volume. We're going to cover a little bit more of the state of Florida, and we should be expanding to another city outside of the state here soon. So I'm excited for that. And I'm really just looking to get ANEW out there in a big and meaningful way, not just with agents, but also with customers. I think that it's not as important who you're aligned with, right? Like your brokerage, your team, at the end of the day, as a real estate agent, you're selling yourself whenever you're sitting in the living room with the seller, or you're meeting a buyer out at a property. But it does make it a lot easier when there is some brand recognition. And so one of my main missions by the end of 26 is not for people to go, ANEW who, but go, oh, ANEW, I know you. Especially in our immediate markets, Tampa, Orlando, and then Fort Myers. And then that'll slowly build over time. So really big, hairy, audacious goals. And I am so excited for the year to kick off.
I love it. I love that. I love big goals, and so excited for you. And you've accomplished so much just since July of last year. It's going to be really exciting to see ANEW grow in 2026 and beyond. So congratulations on all the success so far, and best wishes for what I know is going to be a successful 2026 as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me too. This has been great. You've been awesome to get to know. I'm excited to stay in touch. And you popped my first podcast guest cherry. So thank you.
You're welcome. You did an amazing job, by the way. I was going to ask you, what did you think of your first podcast guest experience?
10 out of 10. Hopefully they're
I
all
love
like this.
it. Well, good. Well, thank you so much, Samantha. I really appreciate it. For listeners who want to learn more about Samantha Boyd and the ANEW Real Estate organization, how can they learn more and connect with you?
So I'm very active on Instagram. You can find me at Samantha Boyd _ANEW. I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can find me, Samantha Boyd. And then you can visit our website, which is just anew.house.
I'll have the links, of course, in the description for this episode, and we'll tag Samantha Boyd ANEW and ANEW Real Estate, ANEW.real
Yep.
estate on Instagram as well when I release this episode. Samantha, thanks again so much. Truly a pleasure. Great to meet you. I look forward to following up and staying in touch.
You too. Thanks, Jeff.